There we go. My new favorite friend who tells me the recording's in progress every time I start a webinar. But hello, welcome to our Interscholastic Unified Outdoor Bocce. This is our pre-competition webinar for coaches. I am Zach Cintron, and with me is Katie Turner, who is the Bocce chair. We're just gonna take you through and give you some ideas of what to expect this coming Tuesday when we are in Chestertown for the state Bocce tournament. Good news is the systems that we've run in the past have worked pretty well. We've tweaked some things from last year, but if you've been to Chestertown in the past, a lot of things are similar to what we've done in the past. Again, we'll go through some logistics of the event, remind you about the event guide, which will be out officially tomorrow, remind you about some credential stuff, and just, some rules reminders, parking for buses, parking for people coming in non-buses, venue layout, all that kind of stuff. Again, like I reminded you guys earlier, if you have questions or whatever may come up, feel free to use the chat. Katie will be keeping an eye on the chat. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat. Additionally, you can raise your hand. We'll unmute you. All sorts of good stuff. But we're going to continue to go through. And at certain points, I will pause to see if there's any questions. Additionally, at the end, we'll open it up for questions as well. Again, just a reminder that we will have medical on site. We will actually have the same medical person that we just had for 2 days at State Track and Field. Her name is Julie. She's awesome. She's super helpful, not only in a medical capacity, but she actually likes to help us do all sorts of other stuff because she hates sitting around. So if you need her, she will more than likely be at the control center and on the field level. But if for some reason you're in the stands, if you're in the concourse area, and you need medical, just grab somebody in one of these polos that you see. It's going to be white and gray striped. We'll get Julie. We'll have her come up and take care of whatever you need. Additionally, when it comes to medical, if you have any sort of accommodation that an athlete may need, a partner may need, a coach may need, let us know. We will try to do our best to accommodate whatever you may need up to a certain level within our control. Again, whether it's changing areas, feeding areas, whatever it may be, we're more than happy to assist with that. So the location for the state tournament, you don't know, it's in Chestertown at Washington College. It's in Roy Kirby Stadium, which is the football stadium, and that is the address. If you go onto Google Maps and look up Roy Kirby Stadium, you can actually get directions straight to the stadium because it is its own location on Google Maps. I'm assuming Apple Maps is probably the same. So very easy to find in Chestertown. The schedule for next Tuesday, for the most part, we want you to get your schools there, work with your bus drivers to get there between 9 and 10 a.m. The closer you get there towards 9 a.m., the more warm-up time you're going to get. We will have the court set up and everything. Warm-up is from 9:30 to 10:15. But again, if you get there at 10 o'clock, by the time you settle in, you're not going to really have that much time for warm-up, so try to get there a little bit earlier. The nice thing is for our friends that are coming across the bridge, you should be going the opposite way of morning traffic. So hopefully you don't end up with anything on the bridge. But additionally, I will give you my contact info in case you do run into something on the bridge, because just because you're going the opposite way doesn't mean something doesn't happen on the bridge. We've all traveled that bridge enough to know that it's never true that you are just going to cruise right over. So the other thing I want you guys to make a note of as coaches, we will have a coaches meeting at the control center at 10:15. Any other updates morning of that I have for you guys, any notes that I have for you guys, will go through the facility layout, point out where things are, remind you about lunch and merchandise and all that kind of stuff. 10:15 a.m. at the control center that's on the track. We will start opening ceremony right at 10:30. If for some reason you are running a little behind, gotta go back one. If for some reason you are running behind and you aren't going to make it for opening ceremonies at 10:30, don't worry. Take your time, get there safely. We will start at 10:30 just to keep things moving along. But we want you to do your best to please try to get there by 10, worst case scenario, 10:15, so you can be there for the opening ceremony. We will start competition as soon as the opening ceremony is over. The scheduled time for competition to begin is 11 a.m. Usually our opening ceremony is about 10-15 minutes long. Usually we then start calling down the first round of teams. Takes about 5-10 minutes for you to get down there. By the time everybody gets down there, We get everybody escorted to the courts that they need to be at. It's about 10:50, 10:55. We start right at 11. Like most districts do, we will do rounds of 30-minute play. So we will do one round of 30 minutes, clock ends, get everybody off the courts, next team's on, 30 minutes, and we'll repeat that cycle for, usually it's about 6 rounds of play throughout the day. At around 11:30, lunches become available. They will be picked up at the awards tent, which I'll show you a picture of where that is located. Same plan as usual. Again, if you have come in years past, lunch pickup will be in the same location. And then when it comes to award ceremonies, we have it scheduled for 3 p.m. But with Bocce, when your team has its place determined, we will award you so you can either hang around and watch more games or get back on the bus and head out. We leave that option up to you. So an example of that is if you are in a division of 8 teams, right? And we're playing a single elimination 8-team bracket. If you lose your first match, you go into the runner-up bracket that is playing for 3rd and 4th. If you happen to lose your first game in the runner-up bracket, typically your place is determined in 7th or 8th place, and we're willing to award you at that point. So again, you're free to stay and watch more matches, or you guys can get on the bus and head home. Everybody plays a minimum of 2 games. I don't think we've ever had anybody leave earlier than 12:30, 1 o'clock. So it's not like you take the bus there for, hour, 2.5 hours, get there, play 2 games, and you're gone by 11 o'clock. That never happens. So again, just a heads up that the award ceremony, that time is there for what the conclusion of the day typically is, but that's not what time you may be awarded. Rain date. If for some reason we get rain and we get washed out on Tuesday, we will move just the next day to Wednesday. I will tell you, as of right now, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday look great. They all look sunny, and I think the high temperature is like 72, which is awesome. It tends to be a little warm on the turf, so dress appropriately, but it doesn't look like it's going to be overly hot on the turf to end May here. Some years in May, we've gotten to the end of May and it's gotten pretty toasty on the turf. It looks like it's going to be nice. If for some reason we need to make a call on bad weather, the latest we will do that is Monday, so that before you even wake up on Tuesday. But as of right now, the weather looks great. Parking for buses. There's essentially, there's 2 ways on and off campus for the most part, maybe 2.5 ways if you pick a little back route that you can sneak in. Realistically, we want you coming in the main entrance to Chestertown. If your bus driver puts in Washington College, it's going to take you to the exact location where we want you guys to enter off of the main road here. When you come in, we will have signs leading you to where the buses need to drop you off. Buses will loop around, drop you off right in front of the stadium, and then the bus drivers will park in this back lot here. We've been doing this for years. It's worked really well. We will have additional signage to show bus drivers where to go after they drop you off. And then again, bus drivers are more than welcome to walk through the walkway here. It looks further than it actually is. It's essentially a baseball field's distance walk. So bus drivers are more than welcome to come through. When it comes to pickup, when you guys are leaving too, same thing. Buses come from the pink lot, come around the baseball field, pick you up around front, go out the front entrance, and you're back into Chestertown. We've done this route for a few years. It's worked really well. And we're going to continue to use it until it proves that it doesn't work. One additional note to make for you is when you get on the bus in the morning to come to Chestertown, do yourselves a favor and get your bus driver's phone number. That allows you to, when your team is getting awarded or is staging to be awarded, you can text your bus driver and you can let them know, hey, 5-10 minutes, we're going to be awarded. We're going to grab our stuff and we're going to meet you right where we got dropped off in the morning. Really allows you guys to expedite your exit and allows you guys to have a smooth exit as well. The additional thing is the parking lot that the bus drops off in is segmented in 2 sides. If you're looking at the map, the left side closest to Roy Kirby Stadium, we do 0 parking allowed on that side. We want the buses to be able to come and go nice and easy, be able for you guys to get on and off the bus really easy. If you have an athlete in a wheelchair that needs the lift on and off the bus, we want it to be accessible. And if nobody's parked over there, a lot of the times we can get 2 to 3 buses in and out over there so that we can get you unloaded and reloaded in a timely fashion. With that said, the opposing side where it's split in half, this green section, if you have anybody that is handicap parking or driving separate, they can park there. And that's the closest access point when you park to get to the stadium. If you would like some sort of handicap parking reserved for somebody that's coming that you know is coming, we can mark off a spot there. We have roughly a dozen spots that we can probably pre-reserve. But please email me and Katie right away if you do need a handicap parking spot. Again, they're very limited. We can reserve a few for sure, and let our parking folks know to help you out to reserve some of those spots. But there's not a ton of them to give to everybody and anybody that needs handicap. So again, if you really need a handicap parking spot for somebody, let me know. One last thing is I want to go back to this, looking at this photo, there's additional parking that's relatively close for folks. If the parking up in the green section does fill up, underneath Roy Kirby Stadium here, there's another parking lot. That's where we park our rental truck. That's where most of our management team parks. And you can actually walk in a back gate there. If for some reason someone arrives and this green section is full, let them know that if they go down North College Ave, which is the main road through Washington College here, there's another parking lot with pretty easy access. And that will come in right at the field level. Any questions so far, especially with bus arrival, parking, that kind of stuff? Because if that stuff goes well in the morning and the logistics of that stuff goes well, we're in really good shape. Again, communicate with us if you're running behind. Communicate with us if you have any hiccups there. But any questions? Okay.
I was going to say, Zach, nothing in the chat bar, so nothing on that front.
Okay, cool. Credentials. All of our coaches, paraprofessionals, those folks that you put on your roster that are not your student athletes, they will get a credential. It'll be a hanging credential. We want you guys to wear your hanging credentials. You are the ones that we will allow with hanging credentials onto the field of play to be in the coach's box during matches or to assist your athletes as needed. Again, everybody turned in their rosters, so we know who those folks are. If for some reason you just remember as we're closing up this webinar that, oh, I have a paraprofessional that needs to be with an athlete that I forgot about, email me by like noon tomorrow. That's going to be our last chance to put on somebody. But again, you have to remember, the only people that are getting credentials are people that have done the certifications for Special Olympics. That means the volunteer application, protective behaviors, and the background check. But anything that you would do on our Volunteer Hub site. One question that does come up when it comes to credentials and people helping is there are some teams that have student managers. If you have a student manager that did the participant paperwork, they're fine as well. They're good to go. They will be just part of your credentialed team. But again, if you have an athletic director that's showing up for the day, any sort of, person from your school that's just coming to visit, we're not going to allow them down on the field. They're not credentialed personnel. They're more than welcome to be in the stands and spectate and hang out with you guys in the stands, though. So the event guide, again, we will send out the event guide. It'll have all the details for Tuesday and what we have expectation was. It'll have details on uniforms, and it'll have details on Chestertown, different, restaurants and places if you need to stop after the event. It has pretty much everything that you will need to navigate the event. We do a lot of higher view conversations in this webinar, but that has all the details, and we'll share that with you tomorrow. So make sure you look in there as a reminder of how we do our brackets and scoring. When it comes to team warm-up, again, we're welcome to come and warm up. We will give you a court to warm up on. But you got to be there between 9:30 and 10:15 to get onto the field for warm-up time. It'll have the match schedule. We're finishing the details on divisioning tonight, so we'll have that information out to you tomorrow as well. Again, it has the severe weather plan and all those kind of things. So when we send out the divisions, the match schedule, and the event guide tomorrow, take a look at that stuff and double check that stuff. Make sure it all looks good. When it comes to the venue map, we haven't changed anything when it comes to layout. Question. If you have admin or an athletic director that comes, they cannot be on the field unless they have gone through and done our certifications, the background check, the protective behaviors training, the stuff that you guys have done as coaches. We can't have them on the field interacting with athletes. It's just a risk management safety thing. They're more than welcome to be in the stands with your athletes. They are more than welcome to go down to awards to see awards, but we don't want them on the competition field. Additionally, if we don't have to have people on the competition field that don't need to be down there, it makes things go a lot smoother. It allows us to find people when we need to find people and all those kind of things. So even a general rule of thumb is if you don't need to be on the field at a given time, don't be on the field. Enjoy the games from the stand. The nice thing about Roy Kirby Field is when you're in the stands and the layout we do with the courts now, you can see everything that looks great. Back to the venue map. Again, all of the courts we lay out on the field, you're allowed anywhere that you want in the pink stand area. Additionally, because it is sunny, you're more than welcome to bring a pop-up tent and put it in the stands. But two things need to happen if you bring a pop-up tent. One, you need to either bring something to anchor it down, weights, string to tie it down with, whatever that may be. And then two, if you bring a pop-up, we ask you to please put it towards the top of the stands so we're not blocking anyone's view. Additionally, a couple other things that you will find is there's a black square here. That whole side of the track, essentially, we have tents for our management team, our officials, and that's where you will also check in. We will have a separate check-in for Bocce. Katie will be working out of the control center. She'll be doing all of the bracket updates and making sure teams and scores are correct and, progressing the tournament. But when it comes to checking in before every match, we will have a team check-in tent right as you walk onto the track where your teams can check in with another SOMD staff member. They'll make sure you have everything you need before your match. We want you guys check in at that check-in table 5 minutes before your match. If you are playing back-to-back matches, we get it. You're probably still playing a match. If you are not playing back-to-back matches, be proactive, and about 5 minutes before your scheduled match time, please come down and check in so we can get you ready for when we do our turnover between rounds. Additionally, we will have a couple other things. We always have merchandise. Merchandise will be available. Again, cash, credit card, Venmo, we do all that kind of stuff now. I know the student athletes like to sometimes purchase merch. And I anticipate we will also have some healthy athletes offerings that talk about protecting your skin, hydration, all those kind of things when it comes to being a good athlete. The last thing that I want to make a note of is on the bottom here, you will see there's a purpley blue rectangle at the end of the field. That is where the awards and lunch tent is. It's a big, I think it's like a 30 by 60 tent. You can't miss it. It's one of the first things you see when you look down on the field besides the bocce courts. There will be tables and chairs and those kind of things in there. So please go and use that tent to pick up your lunches and for awards when it's time for you to be awarded. Another note for lunches is that you can eat lunch down there or you can bring them back to the stands. But please, when we do call for lunch, only send 2 to 3 people from your delegation to pick up your lunch. Because you guys have turned in those lunch orders to Katie, we will pre-package all of your lunches into individual boxes for your team. We'll hand you a box of all your lunches like you requested. We'll hand you a case of water, and then you can either grab a table under the tent or go back to the stands, whichever you're more comfortable with. Katie, did you have something?
Yes. So Tomorrow is the last day to turn in lunch orders. A lot of people have done that. And thank you to those who followed the directions of putting your county in your school. We have a couple Northeast or Northeastern teams, so it just helps with knowing who belongs to who. I've kicked back a few because they were either not a Word or a Google Doc. So those who have not submitted them, please just make sure. It's just easier for us to print them out and make sure that everybody's accounted for. We did have a question, Zach, in the chat bar asking, do you check in every time we play? Yes, because if your team is not on the field, I will do 2 calls and then your team is forfeited because you are not on the field ready to go. So we are going to have a team that you will check in with before you go on the field, before your round is called, so that you are accounted for. And then this way we're not hunting people down on the track up, or even up on the stands. Now, going back to what Zach was talking about with scoring, we all want to know how our teams did. We want to know which way we're going. You need to be very patient because I am trying to get all the other teams out on the field. So I have volunteers coming to me getting new clipboards. So please give me at least half an hour after your match to see what the scores are. That 30-minute grace period gives me 15 minutes to get people out and then to review what has just transpired so we can get the next set of matches ready to go out, because there is quite a bit of paperwork I have to complete in between matches. So I really appreciate if you do that, because I'm one person. I will have some helpers, but it's really me. And it just helps with keeping things moving. And then this way I am able to give you my undivided attention when you come to ask me a question.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And just to follow up on Joe's question of checking every time, yes, we need your team of 4 to 8 or 10 with your substitutions to check in before each match to make sure we get you to your court to play, so you don't have to forfeit a match. But you do have to check in once in the morning to get your coach's packet at the control center. Otherwise, it's just team check-in at the team check-in tent.
Yeah, and it's just simply, hey, we're here.
Yep. Yeah, what we actually have volunteers this year that are going to escort teams to the correct field. So as soon as they get both teams, they'll escort them and handle that and assist your team as needed. The other thing that I wanted to point out on our map here, just so you guys know, is there's an orange box in a building down to the bottom right. Should for some reason crazy weather roll in, we're on the shore. It happens sometimes. It definitely happens. If crazy weather rolls in that we have to evacuate indoors somewhere, essentially that is our main option. We will walk across the street to Washington College's building across the street, and we will go inside there. There's a big auditorium. There's a bunch of classrooms, all sorts of stuff. Additionally, I know some people also will probably make their way under the concourse, under the stands. That's fine too. We will not fit 40 teams of bocce teams under the concourse. So again, if bad weather rolls in, we will make announcements. We will give directions of where we want people to go. Please follow directions. Knock on wood, we haven't had that issue up to this point. But with being on the shore, I always want to make you guys aware that crazy weather happens. A lot of you are from the shore, so you know that it can roll in off the Chesapeake or off the Atlantic at any time. But as of right now, weather looks good. We'll keep you guys in the loop. The court map. We have had a couple of different renditions over the years, but I think we're finally settling into one that both accommodates good visual spectating opportunities from the stands and gives you guys an accessible layout to work with. Last year, we finally turned the courts to a horizontal, going parallel with the stands view. We stacked them in a little bit of a funky way that they were too deep and across the field that people couldn't see. This year, we're going to 3 columns instead of 2. So it should make everything closer to the stands and easier to see. This will be the court layout for Tuesday. Every court will have a court sign that will be labeled 1 through 10. Every court will have a scoreboard with it, so on and so forth. This will be in the event guide again. So if you want to print yourself a copy early when we send it tomorrow, that's fine. You'll also get a copy of the court schedule and the event guide and all that kind of stuff in your coach's packet. So you will get physical copies on site as well. So if you don't want to print something early, that's totally fine. We will provide that for you on site. just know that this is the layout for the course. Again, something that we love to take feedback from. This is something that we took feedback from last year to rearrange the courts a little bit. Go through Tuesday. Let us know what you think of the court layout. Again, take it from a perspective of not only your experience on the field, but when you're in the stands and potentially spectating in between your games, let us know what the visual is from different parts of the stands, high, low, in between, left, right, and give us some feedback. Again, we always want feedback every year. We aim to get better with everything we do every year. And we want to give the best experience to you and your athletes every year. So this is the game plan for this year. Again, if there's something that needs to be tweaked, we'll take your feedback and we'll look into it for next year as well. Again, staging for all the matches, we will make announcements through the stadium PA to report to staging to check in for rounds of matches. So when you have the match schedule, it'll be in round 1, round 2, round 3, round 4, round 5, round 6. It'll have a scheduled time to it. And then as matches are finishing, essentially, you guys know how the typical bocce system works. We run matches that are 30-minute matches or to 16 points. At 2 minutes, we'll make an announcement saying, everybody, you have 2 minutes left. Make sure you're finishing up your last frame. We'll make an announcement that that round is over and that you need to finish your frame. And then we will also make an announcement that at this time, round 2 teams, please make your way to staging. Those will be the cadence of the announcements that we'll make. And so we will continue to do that throughout the day. Like Katie said, we will make a first call for round 2 matches, whatever round it is. We will get everybody organized out. Once we realize who we're missing, we'll make a round 2 call, potentially with specific team names. If after that round 2 call, you guys aren't there when we are about to start round 2 or whatever round it may be, we will start that clock. And if you're not there, you forfeit that match. One thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that everybody is getting a good experience, which includes keeping on schedule, because we know you guys got to go back and drop off at school for pickup as well. Again, your students get on the bus early. We want to make sure they have a good experience with us, but we also want to get them home in a timely manner because there's a pickup aspect to school-based programming. So again, please report to staging 5 minutes early ahead of your reported time. And then as we make calls, if you forget, just remember to listen for those calls and we'll do our best to support you to get you down there.
So Zach, we actually had a question about like what happens if a team is in a tie. So we will have the teams play an extra frame to break the tie. So that may put us a little bit behind on scheduled time, but it won't be too terribly.
Yep. Because most of the time when we have to do an extra frame like that, that's in that gap that we build in anyway, where the staging crew is finalizing getting all the teams ready to go out to the courts anyway. So again, if in a crazy scenario that we get a multi-round tie for playoffs, yes, that'll push us back a little bit. We'll make announcements. We'll keep you in the loop. Yeah, but we will do an extra frame, just like normal gameplay. And then just a reminder on how we do, we'll do a reminder on scoring after this slide for overall team scoring and placement based on ties and stuff like that too. Additionally, like I said, once the results are in, like Katie was mentioning, Katie's not only processing those results after a round, but also working to get all the match cards out for the next round, get volunteers back out there. George, our head official, is making sure our officials are okay. There's a lot of moving pieces between rounds, so we really need you to hold up your end of the bargain with your teams, making sure they get to check in, and to our check-in team with Melissa Anger and our Delmarva Power volunteers, so we can keep the other pieces going. Some competition accommodations. Again, if you have an athlete or a unified partner that needs an accommodation, most of these things we've already taken care of. You know, they're in a wheelchair. Just a heads up, Zach. Hey, we have an athlete that's in a wheelchair, so we'll need them going on and off. We paint all of the lines for all of the courts, so every line will have the traditional foul lines. It'll have the midpoint line. It'll have the wheelchair/ramp use foul line as well. All those typical things will be done. But if you have something for an athlete that's an accommodation that might be needed that we have the capability of supporting, we're more than happy to do so. Again, just like the medical request, email us right away so we can know. Before we hit this stuff about protests, I just want to remind folks, we typically have two formats of competition play based on how many teams are in a division. We try to get 4 or 8 teams in a division. That's a nice even number to round things out. That's not always the case. Sometimes we'll have a 3-team division. Sometimes we'll have a 5-team or a 6-team. It depends on the scores that are submitted based on your assessments. For the most part, when it comes to 3 or 4-team divisions, we play pool play / round robin. You play 2 games, you play everybody in your division, and you kind of go around. Those games, those divisions occasionally will be determined if there's ties. 2 teams go 1-1, 2 teams go 2-1. We will then determine the placements in that division by points given up amongst all your games, points scored amongst all your games, and if we have to go to a coin flip, we will. We haven't had to do that in a long while, but we will. This is something that I will go over and remind you guys morning of, and it'll make more sense once you see what your team divisions are tomorrow of, hey, am I going to be in a round robin division where this may come into play? When it comes to our bracketed play, especially 8-team divisions, we do single elimination with a runner-up bracket. So if you play your first game and you do lose, it doesn't mean that you are completely out. It means that you go into the runner-up bracket and you can play through and potentially end up in 3rd and 4th place. If you lose in the winner's bracket in the 2nd round, you go to the runner-up bracket, but you get a bye in there. Again, once you see the brackets, it's typical bracket setup. It's typical round robin play. If you have questions about that when we do send out brackets and or the pool play sheets, please reach out. Send us an email. We can help clarify. We can do our best to give you the best insight to your division as we can. One thing that I always like to go over, it's something that our community program is a little bit more used to, but I think a lot of you as coaches that are returning coaches have gotten used to over the years, is filing a protest. So protests are there to protect your athletes. Protests are not there to combat a judgment call of an official. We will always take our officials' judgment calls and we will side with them, just like any other sport. NBA, NFL, pickleball league down the road. When we have our officials there, our officials are trained. They know what they're doing. There are times that officials make mistakes, just like every other sport, but we support our officials' judgment calls. If there is something with the other team is not following the rules correctly, if for some reason the sequence of play is wrong and you want to protest that, that's totally fine. Again, you need to come to our control center and file a protest within 15 minutes of the match completing. So it could be before the results even go up, but you're the coaches, you were at the match, you were in the coach's box, you saw things. Come to the control center and file a protest within 15 minutes. The other thing that I would like to say with this is, if you see something wrong on your court, Polina gets placed wrong, whatever it may be, as a coach, you can also say, you can also ask the official, hey, official, can we take a timeout and can I ask you about this? Let's fix this. Have conversations. Again, one of the biggest things, and I talked about it last year for the state tournament too, is as long as we keep our conversations going and communicating with one another, things tend to work out and we tend to be in a good spot. So again, if you see something, flag down the official, say, official, I'd like to ask a question on this. This may seem out of place. This may seem wrong. I want to get your take on it. If for some reason the official says things are good, but you still think it's wrong, that's when you come see me, come see Katie, and bring it up. You don't have to wait till the end of the match, but bring it up. We'd rather correct something early than let it go the whole match and be wrong the whole time. But again, with that said, if there is something wrong and the match concludes and you think you should file a protest, please do come to the control center. You can file a protest. You can ask us questions. You can even ask, hey, I saw this. Is this something worth filing a protest? And we'll be honest with you. We'll say, hey, yes, that's something that's protestable. If you think you need to file a protest to protect your athletes, do it. No, that's an official's call. If you file a protest, it's just going to get denied because it's an official's judgment call, blah, 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 those kind of things. We want you to protect your athletes. But at the same time, we ask you to do it politely and work with the other coaches, work with the officials, work with us, and we're happy to work with you. Katie, do you have something to add?
Well, I was going to say, George will also be floating around out on the court, our head official. So if you see something, you can always ask the officials at your court to grab him. Because like I said, he will be floating around, Zach will be floating around. I won't be, because I'll be in the control center working on paperwork, but there are Special Olympics people who will be walking around. We're all going to be wearing the same shirts.
Yep. Before we leave this page, question on protests, what protests are, how to file them, any of that.
I have a question.
Yep.
So last year I had a protest, but I felt like I wasn't gonna get, like, it was gonna be whatever.
Yeah.
And an official, like one of you, was like, you should protest that. And I'm like, really? It's not gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I finally filed it and it was upheld.
Yeah. Yeah. So Renee, I think I'm getting the sense of sometimes it feels like you're unsure. Even with it being upheld, there's a committee here. You see, there's a rules committee. One of us may say, hey, you know what? If you think that's going to protect your athletes, I think you should file a protest. I don't know what the outcome is going to be because I don't decide that myself. If I was just deciding that myself, there's no greater input from multiple people at multiple levels protecting your athletes like you're protecting your athletes. So I can say, hey, you know, if that's something that you think is going to protect your athletes, file it for sure. File it. I'm not going to be able to say like, oh yeah, that'll definitely be upheld. That'll be shot down. I then take that to the committee that you see here and they talk it through and they're going to make a decision on that. So don't be afraid to file a protest. I would rather you file a protest for almost everything and anything and then have it come back and be denied than never file it at all. I know it may not feel good to have something come back and be denied as a protest, but then you're protecting your athletes and you're being sure of it, you know?
But the silly things like a player crosses the line when they throw their ball and the official doesn't catch it.
Yep.
How is that upheld?
So in that scenario, I think that's a really good scenario of there's part official's judgment call / malpractice of how the game is happening, right? So I think that's a really good example of one of those middle ground situations of one, grab the head official at your court and say, official, hey, it seems like this athlete or unified partner may be stepping on the line. Can you keep an eye on it? It's kind of like holding for football, right? There's holding on every play. It's going to happen occasionally. And the official's not going to see it every time, but you tell the official, and when you tell them, they'll keep an eye on it. We'll tell our officials, hey, when a coach says something to you, take it seriously. We always tell them, take it seriously, keep an eye on it. If for some reason that official doesn't continue to keep an eye on it and look at it, that's when you go and grab George, you go and grab me. And then a lot of the times we'll come stand on that court. I know George for a fact, when something comes up like that, George will walk over and he will stand on that court for like the rest of the game. So while that is that thin line of officials judgment call / game malpractice, that's something that we want to address during that game as much as we can, because it's not really something that you can protest, but it's something that's impacting the game. Does that make sense, Renee?
Yep. Okie dokie. And with that being said, that's not a protestable thing?
So it's one of those things where it's, if you protest it, it's the officials, unless we're hovering on it the whole time, like I just said, like if you bring it to our attention, and then George is sitting there, I'm sitting there, whoever's sitting there, that's something that we can keep an eye on and look at. But otherwise, we can't police every minute of every game. We use our officials to do so. And
Absolutely.
it's their judgment of, at that point, I'm not seeing the step over the line at that point, and it becomes an official's judgment call. But that's why we want you to grab us early to, I don't want, the wrong word is circumvent, but that's the word that's coming to my mind. But to get ahead of that issue of, hey, we keep seeing this happening. The judge isn't seeing it. It could be a perspective thing from where they're standing on the court, which makes sense. So, hey, we're gonna grab George, we're gonna grab Zach, and we're gonna get some extra eyes on this court early because it's a judgment call type of thing.
That makes sense. But
Coach,
how trained are your officials?
So here's the thing with bocce, right? Let's be honest about it. Bocce is not an accredited, trained official sport. We don't have NFHS trained track and field officials. We don't have, NERSA trained college football officials. Bocce is a sport created by Special Olympics. And so typically we have self-trained officials. The good news is within the past year or two, we've actually started working with bocce leagues. So for indoor bocce, we had the Frederick Bocce Club. They came out. They did a really nice job. We now have Chestertown bocce officials and Rock Hall bocce club officials that are coming out to be officials. They understand the game of bocce. They have a good sense. We've gone and we've done trainings with them. With that said, they're not going to be perfect. No official is, but they're as close as we can get to bocce knowledgeable officials, with bocce not being an NFHS type of sport, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But then my next question is, you all are so very rigid on like our uniforms. Like you have to have this and that and the other thing, but then we're kind of lackadaisy about other things.
Yeah, so again, like a good example, we'll have a uniform slide, or we might have actually even chopped that out, where in the past couple of years we've tried to, we want you guys to have, uniforms, and we want them to have the logos and stuff like that. We've tried to become more flexible on those things. When it comes to our rules and how we officiate games, that's where we're trying to continue to tighten it up, where we get as non-lackadaisical on officiating as possible. Again, when we just had track and field this past week, we have NFHS officials that come out from USTA track and field. They live and breathe that stuff. While our officials from Chestertown Bocce Club, on a weekly basis go out and play and know the game pretty well, they're not paid officials on a weekly, daily basis like that. So we're trying our best to tighten up how we cover the rules, how we officiate, how we train our officials. And we're doing our best that we can on there. But again, with recommendations that we've had from you guys in past years, including stuff from last year, we're doing our best to tighten that stuff up as much as we can, Renee.
All right. Thanks.
So actually, Coach, I'm going to address your thing about the rigidity of the uniform. So I've been a bocce chair for the last 2 years, and I have been a chair in our organization for the last 5. I have only ever dress coded a child for showing up in jeans. Yeah. As long as your kids have like similar blue pants or black pants or whatever color bottoms, I really don't care. As long as I can look at a kid and be like, okay, you belong to this school, you belong to that school. It's more for just identification purposes. But I truly have never dress coded a kid, and it was track and field that I did this because the kid showed up in jeans, and you can't run in jeans.
Okay, so that makes me feel like, why did I make the special effort to make sure that my uniform is like, I have to have the capsule?
Correct, because it's a Special Olympics t-shirt, so it's a part of the uniform.
And I have to have, I'm sorry, I'm frustrated right now about uniforms because it's so specific. Like,
yes, we are. So Renee, when it comes to what Katie's saying, the shirts have specific things like the capsule logo and stuff like that. And that tends to be with branding and stuff. Like we can go down a whole nother road with branding and stuff like that. The shorts, again, like Katie said, if you tell your team to wear some sort of khaki shorts, some sort of, hey guys, we're wearing black shorts, get black shorts across the board. We're not going to go and make sure everyone has the exact same black shorts, as long as they meet the uniform code of black shorts without massive Under Armour logos up the side or whatever it may be, as long as it's not leggings, those kind of things. We're not going to slam the hammer on you at a state tournament for something wild like that. We're going to make sure. But again, we do have a uniform code. Renee, we can follow back up at the end if we want to talk more uniform and additional stuff. I do have a good question here from David on what's an example of a successful protest and what is the result? A really simple example of one that has come up in the past is a team that continuously throws the bocce ball above the waist. Again, it's a below the waist delivery, underhand, overhand. As long as it's below the waist, it's fine. The team is perpetually delivering above the waist. That's not how the game is played. That's not an official's judgment call. They are simply throwing it above the waist. And as soon as we see that or we get a report of that, we will check that. And then essentially we will go back and we'll talk to the ref. We'll talk to our head official that will be over at that court at some point. He'll get called over. And that's something that will get overturned. And it's a simple, for team sports, it tends to be a simple flipping of the result if they lost. But usually it's a forfeit by the team that was perpetually delivering above the waist. So I think that's a quick one. I haven't seen that in a long time, but that's the easiest one that I can think of. So a question from Joe on ball delivery, which I think is a good one. A player does need to have 1 foot in the box. So there are some players that will deliver the ball 1 foot in the box, 1 foot out of the box, which is the back end of the court behind the foul line. If there's a cone there, which we tend to do to create a vertical aspect to the field of play, if the cone is in the way and it needs to be moved to deliver the ball, that is fine. Typically what I would do is I would ask the official, I'd like to deliver the ball 1 foot in, 1 foot out, the cone's in the way, can I move the cone? Official gives the blessing, good to go. So hopefully that gives you your answer, Joe. Cool.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course, no problem. Continuing along, uniform stuff like we were talking about a little bit before. The main things that we deem illegal are we don't do leggings, no leggings, transparent above the knee, any of that kind of stuff. And then when I was talking about the shorts that become illegal, it's the shorts that have crazy designs on the side, big Under Armour logos, big Nike logos, so on or so forth. If you have shorts that have a big school logo on it, that's fine. If they're school issued, that's okay. We work with the district reps to have uniforms in code, especially when you're ordering new uniforms. I know schools will get uniforms every few years. Some schools are, 5 to 10 years, they get new uniforms, whatever it may be. We try to work with schools and district reps to make sure uniforms are in line when they're school-based uniforms. Again, if you tell your student athletes for uniforms, for shorts specifically, for pants specifically, that you want them all wearing black shorts, if half of them go out and get plain black shorts from Walmart that are Champion brand and the other half go out to Walmart and get plain black shorts that are Walmart brand, we are not going to check what the brand is as long as it doesn't have large logos obstructing on the side, on the front, whatever it may be. Again, team divisions, we do the team divisions based on your assessment scores that you submit. We put you in team divisions with like teams that have similar assessment scores to give you the best competitive balance in a division. Again, we've gone through, we've done the assessment scores, we've received your assessment scores, we're finalizing divisions tonight, and we will get you the divisions tomorrow, along with a match schedule, event guide, so on and so forth, so that you can plan out your way you're going to approach Tuesday along this weekend, communicate to your student athletes and parents over the weekend / Monday, any details you may like to communicate. Few miscellaneous things as we kind of come to a close here. Awards, again, we will announce over the PA, we want X teams to please report to the awards tent to be awarded. When you get there, we have typically done where we will line you up in rows and we will call you up team by team. You go onto the stage, we'll do the awards announcement process. We'll announce all of your athletes, they'll get their awards, come off the awards stand, and you can either A, stay for more games, or you can head out to your bus, whatever you would like to do. We do ask so that you guys can get good photos, so we can get good photos, that your student athletes do go onto the award stand in their uniforms. Again, we want them wearing their shirts, their shorts, whatever it may be. I will say, additionally, when we had cold weather last year, we are not too rigid that we won't allow you, if athletes are cold, put back on a sweatshirt, to put back on sweatpants that they might be wearing over. We do ask that when you go to awards, if they can peel those off to go up and get their awards and slap them back on as soon as they get their award, that would be awesome for us. We really appreciate it. I don't know if any of you have run into our photographer, Marlene, before. Marlene's at like every event, and she will try to get every team photo of every team that walks through. So she will be there taking photos as well, and she loves seeing you guys in your uniforms. Yes, Jen said the sweatpants sold like hotcakes last year. It was a little chilly. I'd like to pretend that we were strategic about what merchandise we brought, knowing what the weather was like, but we just lucked out, and you guys got some nice sweatshirts and sweatpants. When it comes to shoes, they do need to wear closed-toed shoes. That is a very good question. If you want to wear slides and socks onto the bus, listen, I was a high school and college athlete at some point too. It ain't fun wearing, track shoes and cleats and whatever it may be on the bus the whole time. Slides and stuff are great for the bus, not for competition. Really good question, Michelle.
And the kids will try Crocs or not toes closed shoes.
They comfy though. I will admit, Crocs are comfy. Really quick, again, a reminder for lunch. Typically about 11:30 a.m. we have lunch available at the awards tent. We will make a PA announcement that lunches are ready and that you can bring 2 or 3 people from your team, come over. We'll have your lunches pre-packed. We'll give you your box of lunches. We'll give you a case of water. And then again, you can grab a table under the tent, or you can head back to the stands, whichever works for you. Additionally, if you would like to pre-pack a cooler of extra waters, of some Powerade, Gatorade, or whatever, you're welcome to bring that stuff. We just ask you clean up after yourself as well. We will also have Gatorade coolers full of water bottles throughout the facility. We'll have them at awards. We'll have them at staging for teams. We'll have them at the control center. We'll have them in the stands. We will have cold water in bottles everywhere. You're more than welcome to take stuff out of those containers. Athletes, parents, coaches, paraprofessionals, athletic directors, those waters are for everyone. But just please make sure that you clean up after yourself, get stuff in the garbage, get stuff in recycling, and take care of the facility. If you have not gotten your lunch orders to Katie, please get them to her ASAP. We need them tomorrow, worst case scenario, so we can print them out and have them ready to go for our lunch team. If for some reason it slips your mind, it hasn't gotten in, you haven't given us one, we're not going to starve you. But knowing what your roster number is, we will be able to cover those people. We may not have your first choice, though. If you have a bunch of people that want turkey sandwiches and you didn't turn in a lunch order form, we may not have enough turkey sandwiches for you. You may get, a handful of turkey and then ham or salads. If you have people that have vegetarian needs, if they have gluten-free needs, the salad covers all those kind of things. If you don't turn in your lunch order form with people that need those kind of salads and accommodations, we can't guarantee we're going to have it if you don't turn in your lunch form. The one other note that I will make is if you have somebody with a very sensitive diet, a bunch of food allergies, we 1,010% recommend have them pack a lunch for themselves. Again, the salad, we don't get any cheese on it, so there's no dairy, there's no croutons or anything, so there's no gluten. And typically we get a variety of salad dressings that you can get a gluten-free, vegetarian, vegan option in there. But if somebody has a very specific diet, we highly recommend pack a lunch, pack diet-friendly snacks for them, just in case. Day of reminders, that is my cell phone number. Please take down my cell phone number. If something comes up where your bus is running late, if you guys are running behind, please text me, please call me, do whatever you can to notify me. The more we communicate, the more we can support you. Additionally, if you don't have a pen or pencil on you, or you're not typing it into your phone right now, we will send out these slides after, so you don't need to scatter an emergency, enter my phone number into anything. But again, if you're running behind, if for some reason you get to school that morning and half your kids are sick and don't show up, text me. We are more than willing to be flexible within the degree that we can be to support your team. That also allows an equitable experience for everybody else coming to the tournament. But if we don't know, we can't help you. Texting me is the best thing you can do the morning of if you have any issues or concerns. These are all the district reps. If you don't know who your district rep is and what their number is to get a hold of them, should you need them during the state tournament, I don't know. I think you all know who your district reps are, and I'm concerned if you don't know who they are at this point. You've made it far enough that you should. Again, my number's on there if you need to contact me. I tend to be the contact for the Calvert County crew. And again, everybody else is on there. You should have all their contact info. With that said, this is my closing slide. Is there anything that anybody has a question about, something that you may have a question from your district tournament as compared to state, so on and so forth? We're going to open it up here for any sort of questions now that we are at the end of the presentation portion.
So Zach, do you want me to stop recording or do you want to continue?
We can close it off here. If we're going to stop the recording, that's fine. If you have that capability, that's awesome. But Dave, you do have a question if you want to unmute.